This is video 3 of 3 on 121. We're looking at ServiceNow. Somebody asked me in the live room about it, and I asked, are you looking to go long? I don't remember the outcome, but why now? Why not before? Great company. Okay, P&L is great. I don't know what happened in the earnings here. Whoa, it's pretty weird. Anyway, there are no knocks against it from the fundamentals. A huge pivot in 3 days earnings. So flip a coin and see what happens. You're never going to catch me going long a stock that's at this level relative to itself and into earnings. Never. Never. So this could be SMCI where it rallies 30%. It will do it without me. Or it drops 15%. So I'm not willing to be on board of that coin flip. I would take the money and go to Vegas and put it on even or odd. I feel like I have the same odds. It's a coin flip overnight. The P&L is probably going to be good. How people react to it, that's the unknown. NVIDIA had an awesome P&L and the stock fell on the earnings, so be careful. Okay, speaking of NVIDIA, I have no words. I mean, what do you want from me? What are you asking? Technically, it's going to $650 at least. So it went from point A to point B. It consolidated in point B. That's 176. 176 is $680. So I honestly don't know the feedback here. If I'm short, it better be long distance, and I am. And I'm going to have to deal with it this week and see how it goes. Maybe it moves in sympathy to whoever reports this week. We mentioned ServiceNow. I mean, they're not the same company or anything, but Intel moves. This one will go with it, maybe. Or if they sell off Intel, maybe they dump it into NVIDIA. I'm not sure. So this week, I will be ready to defend my position. I can't remember exactly where I put my short. I'll have to revisit it. A great company. I'm just trying to trade the price action. If I'm an investor, I would leave it alone and buy a catastrophe. And the catastrophe may come through no fault of its own. Okay, what is this? Granite shares. NVIDIA. Okay, so why do you need an ETF to trade NVIDIA? I don't understand this. Why wouldn't you just trade NVIDIA? What's the advantage of doing this? I would never consider that. This is definitely not liquid as NVIDIA. So whatever I said about NVIDIA, I say about NVDL. I don't understand this. It moves fast enough, NVIDIA. You don't need an accelerator or anything. Next star. Rally, sold. Rally, sold, rally. It has a lot of resistance above 180. Buy the dip into 156. Looks like an okay P&L. Maybe. Where are the earnings? Why is it 5 quarters of declining sales and earnings? Ask yourself that. Good trend off the bottom, but it had those a couple times before, so be careful. PENN, I do like PENN. We've gone long PENN before, and sellers at 25 or 24.8 versus buyer at 22. If you lose 22, you go into the low 20s. A lot of sellers above. I wouldn't hold calls. 25 days until earnings. Make sure that there aren't any other companies that look like it that are reporting. So there are support below and sellers above. 24 is a catalyst to get you to 25, but it's also a problem area. Palantir, I like the company. I don't like the stock right here. I would like it better at 17.6. Until then, I would consider this a problem and that it's easier to drift lower. It's easier to get to 14.5 than it is to 18. Based on the chart, 15 days earnings. So, that was not it. Resistance. I meant to say sellers and support. So it's easier to drift lower. Good company long term. So rig, pretty bad chart. from the standpoint they lost 620, 610, 6, and rallies into that area will be sold. It probably will end up at 460, 4.6. I would not add to longs. If I'm looking to go long, I would go long with an immediate stop, the stop being the most recent low from last week, which is not very far from current price. Look at it. What is going to turn around this trend? So be careful. This has history, like pretty bad history. RIOT, everything I said about, check this out. They're down into my squiggle, and I put where the target area is likely to be, or where support lies from this bunch of buyers. So if it's going to bounce, it is from here. If it loses 850, it's going to 6. That means that Bitcoin went to that 38, 35 number that I mentioned. 33 is even in the cards for Bitcoin. RIOT, I believe, will track Bitcoin as well. SABR, you misspelled the ticker when you handed it. I think you asked for SABR. Sellers at 4.7. You take out 4.7, you get the 5.2, and you do have a bunch of buyers below. So you do have support. It bounced off of support. If it falls into support again and you want to get long, you can. It's a trade, I believe. Save, I would walk away. It's a headline stock. I don't know anything about the headlines. Do you? Do you have inside information? Arbitrage and all of that? Not for me. Airline companies are crappy companies anyway from a management perspective, and it just made a new all-time low. I don't have any reference lower, so I would walk away from it. It's a gamble. If you want to gamble on it and you know you can play arbitrage, go for it. Star Bulk Carrier. All right, so I'm not a fan of the carrier industry. It seems to be very flexible to concepts. Super strong buyers at 20, super strong sellers in 22. If you take out 22 with conviction, you can get to 25. So I get it from that perspective. I see the attraction. Higher lows, one huge fail above, you take out the huge fail, you burst. Shopify, I love the company. I like the stock, not up here. When we went long, it wouldn't stop falling, and people hated it, and now everybody loves it. It's in the hands of the buyers, so they're buying dips, buy the next dip into support, where the circle-ish. A lot of sellers at 81.50. Maybe if it comes back down to 73, you could convince me. Even then, I probably will pass. Schlumberger support is lost, and now it is going to be resistance. Not for me. See, we can move this resistance down to here. And this is where the support lies. They're selling rallies. Ooh-wee. What are you asking? Please. Are you in here? Let me know. Okay. I don't know what to say here. The chart tells you nothing. It just rallied 30%. How much was it? Up almost 40% in one tick. And now everybody wants to go along. Not with my money. In fact, I don't know if I looked at selling calls. Not because I hate it, because on an up like this, usually calls are pretty hot. So you can go out like a year and sell it 1,000,000,000% higher and make some money. But I didn't do it on Friday. It was a pretty busy day. Maybe I'll look at it on Monday. Great P&L, whatever they said was very well received. Okay, I'll leave all the lines on there. SOFI, much better. I believe in the last couple of weeks, I had a lot of people when it fell down to here. They said, how about we go long now? I said, not even close. And I said, I would take it in the 6s, and it came very close. My alert didn't fire, or did it? Maybe it did, and I didn't pay attention. So first target was met. Second target, that's the official target. This is Nick's target. So it's somewhere in between those two. I'm worried about debt in the U.S. and if they are a U.S.-based company, I think there's a lot of pain that's to come in that. I don't think we're done with inflation, and I'm not sure what the government has in store for us, but there's a lot of things going on that cannot continue for too long, like big macro things. And I don't know which way they're going to fall. I mean, they could be super good or super bad. So be careful. If I'm long, I'm not adding. If I liked it and I wanted to buy the dip, now I can nibble and leave room for error. So let me add it to my list to look at. I don't think it has a lot of premium for me to sell puts to own shares, but I can nibble. SBY, you will have a special video tonight, but the stock is in all-time highs. What do you want? It's gone. So this is the last of the major indices to break out and set a new high, and we'll see how it's going to play out. It's in open air, although one candle doesn't constitute that, but it is in open air. So you have no reference points. There's no reference point. Except to say, okay, we pop, we drop, we pop. So buy the dip into 477. That looks a pivotal zone, 477. And then what? We'll see. More on this tonight. I doubt I will have anything to say about it other than what I just said here. All right, so SWK, Stanley Black & Decker. They're selling rallies inside the last few weeks. I would anticipate sellers at 97. Earnings in 11 days. It has a lot of support, so maybe it finds support here and this descending channel would end. If it comes down into the 86, it'd be pretty attractive. A lot of sellers above. Oh boy. So if you take out 104 on a headline, maybe you get to 112. But that's a lot of selling. Looks like it's easier to drift lower. AT&T, I don't want to get engaged with it here. It does have buyers below, so if somebody went long this week, I get it, why you went long. Just make sure you're not all in, because it could be at 15 if something happens. That seller right there looks pretty strong, which makes it easier to drift lower. 1750 or higher is very difficult to maintain. They can get there, but to stay and pop above it is going to be difficult. Who is this? Teledyne. Get to 450 and you can probably get another $30 out of it, or buy the dip into 405. Anything below 410 is a good entry point for the curl back up and bust out. Oh, earnings in 3 days. Be careful. Target, earnings in 44 days. It's a bearish setup. It has the opportunity to get down to 125 in a series of couple of weeks. So the R letter is working, and they made a lower low. So that drop was not good. They do have a lot of buyers, but also a lot of weakness, so they could hiccup and get to 127 in no time. Be careful. They need to be above 145 to eliminate that scenario. The TLT, so I said to short the TLT based on logic a couple weeks ago. In the last couple of weeks, I don't remember exactly when. I mentioned it based on pure simple logic, the TLT should be a short. And I also say it won't let you stay profitable too long. So if I did short it, I would be out. Now, if it bounces, that means likely the market is going to explode higher, because that means rates are falling. That means the market got confirmation that Powell is indeed cutting rates in March. They tell me, I think Tom follows the market, and they tell me that now only 50% of the opinion is that there will be a rate cut in March. I honestly, I cannot believe we're going to cut rates, let alone in March. So maybe there is another 50% that needs to price out that idea that there's not going to be a rate cut in March. So that's probably how you trade the SBY. And this is tied, because if rates are falling, the TLT is rising. And the TLT is falling into support, right? And if the TLT does that, that means rates are falling. That means markets are rallying, right? So are we going to get a rate cut confirmation this week or next? I don't think so. So this probably will end up at 90, even though it looks like it's finding support here. So I think logically we should be here. Okay, I'm not going to comment here because this is a market question, and whatever I say about the QQQ tonight will apply here, which is it's in open air. What are you asking me? Are you a trader? Then let's get into the live room and trade it point to point. Otherwise, this is the last thing I would accumulate. It's a point A to point B, the TQQ. It has bleed. We'll have a conversation about that, what that means. It's not the QQQ. If you hold the QQQ calls and you hold this calls, you will lose money on this if they go nowhere. Tesla. I would not hold calls in Tesla. That's been my song, right? I'll be less vocal about that here because this is a prior bounce, but I would use strength to exit. They curled and drew that shoulder, and the downside scenario is 25 points, so it overshot the downside scenario by a little. But what I'm saying now is that rallies will also be sold, likely. The story in Tesla can only get worse unless they have a major change in their business model, because now the story in solar is getting a lot worse. And when consensus flips, it freaking flips. Remember how people were bearish just in December 12th and December 14th? Nobody's bearish? That can happen here. So be careful considering the bottom in Tesla as being 200. Okay, I see scenarios technically that puts Tesla in the 150, 140, 120 area. They're long shot scenarios, but they're there. So if I'm long shares, I'm not adding. If I'm looking to go long shares, I nibble and I use rallies to profit from them. I like to trade Tesla. I don't like to invest in Tesla. And we'll see where it goes. Super strong buyers below. Let's see if they step up. And earnings in 3 days. Da, 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 da. So if people are prepared for earnings to be crappy and they come out just bad, they pop in relief. Short to pop in Tesla. All right, who is this? TTD. Good company. Bought the dip if you were in the live room with me on earnings. Up here, not for me. Because now you're going into a huge volume line for a period of time. If I zoom in, the volume profile will change, of course. But I think it's still a big level. 69 is a big level. It's easier to come back and retest 64 than it is to get to 71. Good company. Look at this. They behave similarly. And this is just a copy-paste of another period of time. Okay. TXN. Great buy the dip opportunity. Now it's gone, and now it's in breakout mode. So buy the dip into 170 would be better than just buy calls and hope. Look at all the sellers above. Now, I don't know where they will show up. They're scattered. But if you want values, I think right here is resistance. But they're scattered. The whole area is resistance. But this area right there is specifically resistance. So if I'm long and I want to milk every penny out of it, anywhere inside or at that area, I would exit if it was a trade. Now, if they can hold above 172, maybe get to 186 in the next couple of weeks if you have a good market move. They overshot on the way down. We thought they would get to here. They went to here. And now they're trying to recover that same area of difficulty. UNH, I just mentioned it earlier. It fell on Humana. Humana still has to report, so UNH might have another dip lower. Imagine the Dow did what it did with UNH being down 2.5%. This is the biggest influence on the Dow. $500 stock. 2% drop in that is probably, I don't know, 100 points taken out of the Dow, and the Dow did what it did. So be careful with that stock. Good company, good P&L. I would buy the dip a little bit lower or sell puts, but it will have a reaction to somebody else's earnings soon. I will put it on my trade. Oh, it's on there already. UPS, I will never trade UPS again. It lost me money last year. And Sellers at 162, you take that out, it will get to 170 or 173. Reason I won't trade it is because it seems to come up with headlines out of nowhere. And I'm like allergic to headlines. I don't want headlines. And it has labor headlines, paper headlines, retail headlines, and just infrastructure headlines. Like it's like that end phase. It adopts headlines from all other industries. All right. 152 must hold. You lose it, you go to 146. 161 is going to be pretty darn hard to take out. If you do, you get to 166. So that's what we're working with. 9 days until the next earnings report. Who is this? Valero. Resistance, it worked. I don't know when I drew this R, but we still have resistance where the R is. And they're bouncing. They bounced once already. Maybe this is the second time. If you lose 124, I think you will lose 120 in the series of lower lows and lower highs. So the sellers are in charge. Where are they going to base? Here? Maybe. We'll see. 4 days until the earnings. Woo-wee. Okay. Veritiv Holdings. I thought it was Veritex. Again, what is the question? What is the question? Is it a good stock? Clearly. Is it a good time to go in? Not clearly. So this is a nope scenario, not an obvious point of entry. I don't know how else to say it. It's in the moon. There couldn't be a worse place to chase than here. Markets are at all-time highs, and so is this guy. If you're a momentum trader, awesome. If you're an investor and loading up all in, you know something I don't. And you could. Walgreens, now it's falling back into the base. If you missed it the first time I mentioned it, I didn't send out a trade alert, but we talked about it. You could probably take longs. So if you've been patient and you saw this and you let it go, and now you're getting engaged with it, good job. I also have to warn you that 23.7 is going to be very difficult to take out. So the second time around is not going to be easy. I think there's a hard seller right here. So if you get this, I would exit because you're in danger of doing this again and then getting back into the muck. In danger. Okay. Okay. What is this? E-commerce retailer, grocery and travel. I have no words. Okay. Not for me. Pass. Weight Watchers. Ragu. Nice jokes. Dad jokes. No. Broken company. Broken stock. You should investigate the company. Rallies into 6.7 are going to be sold hard. And where's the bottom? That in that circle, in that rectangle. Look at that. Good job, Nick. I thought sellers will be here. Buyers will be here. You lose this, you go to the rectangle, and you're at the rectangle. Okay, you do have buyers. There they are. They're scattered through 350. If you're long, I'm not adding. If you're looking to get long, I'm nibbling. 1 part of 3. I'll take 30%. If it collapses 20% more, I will add another 30% and then double down when it collapses with the market. Notice how I snuck that in? Because, yes, the market will correct eventually. XLC, leave it alone because it's illiquid, relatively speaking, and it depends on 2 stocks. It does have a problem at 76, but those 2 stocks don't have a problem. So if Alphabet and Meta continue rallying, this one will be at 82. If you own a put like I did, exit on strength or exit based on your, okay, I hit my, I think I sent out a note saying I would be willing to lose up to 35%. If you're there, those were the instructions. Must hold. Who is this? Oh, the energy. It seems like a lot of earnings reports come out, if I remember correctly, soon. So be careful with that. Rallies into 82 will be sold, and if that's the case, it's probably ending up at 76. They're just triggering a bad scenario. So now I'm looking for rallies to continue selling, and now I have a target because of the head and shoulders. There are buyers, so I give you that. 77 is a bunch of buyers. I'm not adding if I'm long. XLF, I would short. If you twist my arm, I would short it. We'll see. I feel like we're headed to a headline out of nowhere. I just don't know what it is. But there's no way I'm chasing the XLF. If you want to trade it, let's see on the daily chart. Maybe you can have a trade. It could drift to 40. It could, just from the momentum of the market. It could carry it to 40. So we'll see how it plays out. Anything above 39 is on borrowed time. But it could drift until 40 if the market, just with the coattails of the market. The XOP, those are the exploration stocks, right? Yes. Just like the XLE, it lost a support level. So it needs to be back at 133, if not 136. Otherwise, it's easier to get to 120 and 116 than 144 and 48. It's easier to drift lower to the base than it is to pop up and beat the prior fail. That red line is the highest point of volume. I didn't draw it. It's there. XSD. Who is this? Semiconductor. Boy, it's another ticker. All right. So it fell hard and now it's recovering hard. 228, 229 are a problem. I think you can short it there or exit longs. But if you leave runners and you break out of that, you get to 252. It looks like it's better to buy dips than it is to chase it. But if the market is higher, Intel, is Intel in there? Who is this? Let's find out what's in it and how it's going to be trading with Intel. YELP, not for me. It looks like it's easier to get to 40 than it is to break out of 48. You do have buyers and you do have sellers. But if you lose 40, plus or minus 50 cents, there's a vacuum of volume. So better hold. If it doesn't, easy trip. There's a volume gap. And there are a lot of sellers up here. That's what I see from the chart. Oh, wow. Okay, so we ran through them. So tonight I will have a video for the markets, but it's going to be pretty bland. We're in all-time highs, so I'm only going to be focusing on the IWM. What will it do? All right, because that's the only one that hasn't busted out yet. And other than that, you just look up and see measured moves. If you can find any, we'll see if we can come up with some.